to the Zeus, to the Friends of Zeus podcast.
The Zeus of Friends podcast.
Yeah, the Zeus of
This is
Friends.
episode 249. As I said right before the show, Godspeed, James Vanderbeek. Like I said, seemed like a nice guy. Shame he had to pass away at such a young age. I think he's younger
48.
than everybody here except Dez.
48.
Not me Googling who James Vanderbeek is.
He,
Dawson's Creek.
yeah.
She's like, what is that?
Yeah. It was a fishing show back in
Not
the
relevant.
90s.
Okay.
Guy went fishing
All
at
right,
Dawson's Creek.
so what else besides James Vanderbeek, Zeus?
We said Catherine O'Hara and
No, I don't mean who died. I mean like
Here, just hand it over.
all right. Well,
I'm gonna grab
This
the
is Mike's
wheel.
show. He's supposed to take control.
All right, I'll grab the wheel here. So, welcome everybody out in podcast land, and welcome back, Tor, this week. I'm really glad Tor made it back this week because we had quite a show last week, and it was such
I
quite a
loved it.
show. It was such quite a show. It really got me thinking. And I kind of it's my turn this week, and I kind of settled on this topic. So for this week, we may be talking about stories or events or things like that, but it's really not. And if we want to talk about it, that's fine. But it's really not my intention to kind of like talk about specific news stories. The main thing I kind of want to get into is how we get our news, how people in general get their news, what what is news, right? And and how it's affecting us as a society, good, bad, indifferent, what have you. Like I'm not even I was going to say I'm not going to make a value judgment. I think the way in general our society receives and digests news is dysfunctional. That's just my own opinion. Um, but I just wanted to get into it and just just have a conversation. I have at long last a slideshow. It's been a while. I was looking back through my slideshows. I think the last time I did one was like episode 180 or something,
Is that
183.
the AI one?
I don't even know. That was earlier, I think. I don't even
yeah.
remember. But they're nice. It gives us a chance to have technical problems during the
Oh,
show.
wait a minute. I think I remember your last slideshow.
Oh, I think it
Wasn't
was.
wasn't that the aliens?
Oh, that was. I think that was even before that. Yeah, that was.
Oh,
I think that was my favorite slideshow. This one is nowhere near that level. This one's very basic,
okay.
but anyway. So, kind of what I wanted to get into. I had asked all of you. Oh, I didn't ask you, Tor, but I think Jack asked you, or Hot Carl asked you about like where, just an idea of where we get our news, and it was really just. I'll put that slide up in a minute just to kind of get an idea, where we here on the Friends of Zeus podcast get our news from. But what I wanted to get into specifically is again how we ingest this. So let me start the old slideshow up here. Um, and this is probably the only goofy slide. But can you guys see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great flick.
So this sentence here, I didn't come up with it. I actually read it in an article I was reading. It was actually, I believe it was before our episode from last week. And it really intrigued me. And for everyone that saw last week's episode, we're all very, I think we're all very intelligent, smart people, and we're passionate
Speak for
about stuff.
yourself.
Most of us are very
What is
intelligent,
it?
passionate people. And just like chatting with Tor last week about different things, and also as we've talked about, I'm kind of rehashing some things, but I run into this with family, with friends, people I work with, who I get along with fantastically well. I have a huge amount of respect for. I think they're great human beings, but sometimes they say things and I feel like like I'm on a different planet. Like we are experiencing different realities, right? Like we're not operating, at least on certain subjects, from the same deck. And I don't think that it's because they're stupid, and I don't think it's because I'm stupid, and I don't think it's because necessarily they're quote unquote misinformed. I think I'm going down this road a little fast here, but
Differently
my
informed.
differently informed. Let me go to where we listed where we get our news from real quick, this as an example. So back in the old days, we all like to talk about the old days, you know, you basically had radio news, you had newspapers, and that was it. Newspapers would come out once a day, sometimes twice a day. Uh, News broadcasts on the radio would either be on the hour. Some stations were just news. Some you'd only get news at certain times. Of course, television came out. You'd have a news broadcast at night. That went on pretty much through almost the entire first 80% of the 20th century that way. When we started getting into cable television coming out, and you had cable networks coming out, you had these stations like CNN. It was probably one of the first ones where all they broadcast was news, and they were on 24/7. So they had to come up with things to talk about 24/7. They didn't have other shows to go to. It was all news all the time. Fast forward from there, you get to the internet where there weren't you started to see the dissolution of publishing times. In other words, you wouldn't have a deadline to make print because the media was not being physically printed on a printer that had to be ready by a certain time. It could be published at any time online. So news just became more and more ubiquitous, and it became more and more user driven. People could pick what they wanted to listen to or what they wanted to watch or what they wanted to read from an ever expanding set of sources of newspapers, of shows, and all that. You get into 2007 and beyond with smartphones. Now we have these in our pocket all the time, and there's again almost an infinite number of sources of information that you can get on your phone. You can curate it to get only what you want. Um, I don't know that most people do that, but there's definitely algorithms that are watching what you're doing and feeding you stories for
Yeah.
sure, based on what you're looking at, based on what you're watching, even non-news sources. Um, so anyway, so that's a general overview. I'm looking at this. Zeus had Fox News and podcasts and arguing stories. Well, I was going to ask you that. Is that just what
I
type of
was
website is
mocking
that?
you for the line that you put before that. This isn't just going to be arguing stories, so
Oh,
go to
okay. Okay.
arguingstories.com.
Okay. So that's arguingstories.com. Um, oh, we're missing Tom. All right. So he had Fox News, NBC, Bing News, X, Facebook. Again, Tor had Facebook, TikTok, X, CNN. Um, I it's more than this because I like this stuff. Like I just like media and thinking about it and researching it and stuff like that. So I probably have more than the average person. Hot Carl has a ton. And like Tucker Carlson, I mean, people wouldn't even know what that meant 30 years ago. Like you get your news from a person? Like what? You know what I mean? It'd be like
Yeah.
people say like Walter Cronkite, no, you get it from CBS News. So again, that's a great example of like just how much things have changed. That
Though,
Yeah.
if I may,
Well, he's
like
rolling.
well, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
the podcast shouldn't really fall in this. This is more that's more where you like fine tune your opinions. You know what I mean? Like it's not delivering news, it's delivering opinions. Does
Yeah.
that make
I mean
sense?
some
No, they actually
podcasts,
they provide news stories too. That's
yeah.
the bulk of what they talk about is something in the news.
Yeah, I mean,
And then you look it up at your basic news sites. That's what I do.
All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, some podcasts
Me
are
too.
more
Reflective.
more news than not. Like there's a
Yeah.
just as an example, you have like, Tucker Carlson, you're getting an opinion there, but he's going to talk about news stories as well.
Yeah.
If you go on watch MSNBC and you watch Rachel Maddow's show, I don't view that as a hard news show, as an opinion commentary show, but it also has news. She'll report on things that that are going on as well. Like Sean Hannity, he's not a reporter. That
No.
um, if someone is like a Brett Baer or like a Glenn Greenwald, I mean, to me,
Yeah,
these are more
one
like journalists, that
one I've
do
been wanting to
actual
watch is the
reporting.
President's Daily Briefing. It's Mike
Caroline
Baker,
Levitt.
an
Yeah.
ex-CIA agent. I've been wanting to watch it, but that would, I think, fall under the news
Well,
podcast.
that's
Oh,
actually
you
what's
mean
so
like a
well,
podcast? Yeah.
well, what's cool about the internet too is like you can watch the press conferences live. You can watch the what's going on in the House of Representatives live. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
it's all right there. C-SPAN's got multiple channels, so if you really want to get into it, like let's say, oh, they're having congressional hearings with Pam Bondi over the Epstein files. Okay, well, I put on YouTube today and I watch it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty convenient that you can be that selective.
Yeah, like old good old C-SPAN. And
Yeah,
actually,
well, we had that.
yeah, it's funny too, just as a aside that you're mentioning like C-SPAN or watching Congress critters chat um during their hearings. They are aware of this dynamic. So
Hmm.
I'm a wonk. I used to watch C-SPAN, just to watch it, and it was very dry. And just over I would say last 20 years, probably even more over the last 10 years, as far as like
Yeah,
accelerating. You they the Congress critters and the
they perform.
witnesses, they are performing. They are
Yeah,
very aware that this is being clipped, that this is being edited, that this is going out in TikTok bites and things like that, to the point they'll even talk about it. Like someone will go off on some rant, and then the person that they're quote unquote arguing with will be like, "Oh, there you go. You have your clip for the day," or something like that. So, I mean, it's really the way that people ingest and get news has really the Frankenstein is now coming back for the creator, right? I mean, like the way we do it is now influencing the production of it, which I think is fascinating. Desiree had Spouse and Friends, which I thought was fantastic because I hadn't even thought about that. But I mean, I get a ton of news from friends and my spouse and family, and they'll just say something, and I'm like,
yeah,
I was
you
going to say,
know,
Mike, that's something that you left out of your history of the news gathering was
yeah,
the water cooler, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly,
That's a bit now the internet is a huge water cooler. That's a big way for everyone to kind of get their Facebook, whatever, get your comments in on things.
yeah,
But I actually feel like probably most people got their news that way in the past. And it's funny now because I mean I have Facebook and TikTok. I had TikTok first, but it's okay. Um, I don't necessarily get news that way, but I get what people are talking about,
yeah,
Hmm.
right?
yeah,
yeah,
And that's almost as good. It's the same thing. You hear what people talk about, then it's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to look up,
yeah.
do heavier research on things.
and it's
Yeah,
funny
I
that
actually said the same thing to her.
what's
Like,
that? A water cooler?
not water cooler, but
Oh,
whatever's on the homepage for your YouTube page, and it's like, oh, what are people saying? Like,
Yep.
that seems off the wall. Let me go look up some more. Like, seems like not all the information's in this video. Let me go figure some stuff out.
yep.
So,
I think that because you're intellectually curious, that's something that is, I don't think that's necessarily the norm, right? I think a lot of people get their information from the quote unquote water cooler,
Hmm.
and that becomes their truth,
Hmm. And I
right?
see it. I see it at work, like
Sure.
literally. I mean, and people who will self-report, and like my desk is right in the middle of the larger office, so I hear everything if I want to, if I'm not wearing my headphones. But people will say like, "Oh, I don't really watch news," but they get their they get their news from work. And the thing that's interesting about the water cooler model is if you are working in an office and you come in and Joe he's hip to what's going on, and he's always giving you some stories, and over time you realize that what Joe is telling you typically checks out and is typically kind of mostly accurate. Like sometimes Joe exaggerates, but so you learn to kind of trust him. Whereas, Betty, she's always being like, hyperbolic and exaggerating and like so when Betty says something, you're like,
Women.
I better check that out, whatever. But now take that model and now just expand it over just hundreds and if not thousands of different sources.
Mhm.
I found with this list, I didn't give it much thought. I just started listing things. But I've noticed with myself that like if I have some time or I'm, driving, no, not when I'm driving, but if I'm like at a
Yeah,
doctor's
you do.
office or whatever, and
Don't I?
I want to look at the news, like given a certain, like in a given month or two, there'll be like of this list, there'll be like three or four that I'm just checking all the time. Like I kind of get in the habit of checking like three or four because everyone's not checking 50 things a day, right? That's just not practical. Maybe over the course of a week, you'll touch them all. But in a certain day, I kind of get in a rut, where I'm like, okay, I'm just looking at Fox News, Huffington Post, and CNN, and
Yeah.
that's all I'm looking at.
And that's a
And I,
lot.
and I
Well, how do you
completely
search,
forget.
Mike? How do you search? Because if you search a topic,
I
you're going to
usually don't.
embed those sites that you'd frequent the most at the top of your feed, right?
Yeah, and that's
That's
the
the
thing.
whole idea of the algorithm. So it makes it easy for you to just look at those three because those are the first three that are going to come up.
And I need to get more sophisticated because I do it the old-fashioned way where I actually just go to the sites and what I'm looking at are what are like the top two or three stories because and what usually will interest me, like I look at them together. I'll look at like Fox News and I'll look at like MSNBC.com and I'll if the same story is in both of their top three, it's generally a national story. It's a big story like the Nancy Guthrie story or what have you, or Maduro being captured. But generally, I don't see the same stories reflected in the top three, which I find that very interesting. And that's kind of why I like doing that, just to see
Yeah.
who's reporting what and who's saying what and who's not reporting. Again, we've said this has been a common theme on the show tour. I'm not sure if you've seen us discuss this, but you know, really the power of media is not bringing things up, right? It's the
Yeah.
power to
Sure.
not discuss things. Um, at least in my experience. I mean, that's the stuff I always wonder, like why things aren't getting covered. But let's go to the next slide. I'll try not to mess this up here. There we go. So just going through a couple different, and this slideshow is only going to be like 5-10 minutes, so we have plenty of time to chat. I just wanted to get some stuff out here. So if we look at like television news, right? Turning on the old boob tube. How many? I mean, I still watch television, but I really don't watch television news personally. Do you guys
I don't
watch?
have
No,
cable.
Occasionally.
Never.
no, not anymore.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe, if I'm looking online and I see that like there's a giant alligator on the loose in Chicago eating people, like I'll turn on the TV to see if
Sure.
there's any footage of it. You know
Event
what I mean?
destination. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't really go to it. But a lot of people do. So here, this is current as of January 2026. These are, no, I'm sorry, this is December 2025. And this is just basically just ratings. I didn't know ABC News was the highest rated newscast. I did not realize that. Then NBC, then CBS, and then you get to the cable outlets. You have Fox News, MSNBC, or MS Now, and CNN. I also didn't realize how much the broadcast networks are still trouncing cable news during prime time. And again, this is during prime time. What cable news wins out is over the course of the day. Obviously, they have many more viewers than broadcast news. So this is just prime time news is what we're looking at
By
here.
evening newscast, are you talking about like the
We're
whatever title of the thing that comes on at like 5:30 after the local news?
Yeah, I think prime time is technically like 8
After 8.
8 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, where you are, it would be like 7 or 6 or 5:30 if you're on the West Coast, 5 o'clock. It's just
Well,
whatever
what?
they call prime
Yeah, well, I
time.
thought ABC doesn't even do that anymore. Don't they just put a sitcom on or some other bullshit?
I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
this is how it is here. honestly, this is all I can only speak for NBC News because I don't even watch the other two.
Yeah.
Um, but you got your local news at 5, and if I'm using my antenna that I have, because that's all I have besides Netflix and shit, but I'll watch like the local news if I know something's happening. But I don't even then I turn it off to like do other stuff, and then the news comes on again at like 6, and then it's
Hmm.
Wheel of Fortune. So I don't know what's coming on after that, and then the next news thing is 10 p.m. and then after that it's whatever late night show. So
Yeah, it's got to
is
be
that kind
late
of how
if
it
they're.
is?
Yeah, it's something funny about that time of day too. Like even as a kid, I don't remember watching TV news, but my parents, like after dinner, they'd sit in the living room and read the newspaper. Like that was like, and they would chat. That was like the time, and then for like an hour, and then they'd watch something. Maybe like the Muppet Show comes on or what have you. But anyway, so I found this somewhat interesting. Just it's current data. Um, so
Well, I
those are
mean,
TV. Yeah, I'm sorry.
sorry, just one other quick thing. I mean, what were those numbers back in the day, right?
Great
When,
question. We'll have to look that up.
I
Yeah,
think that it's probably was a much higher
yeah.
percentage and it's
It's
gone
Sure.
steadily down.
I'm
Like I
sure.
couldn't even tell you who the network anchors are anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas
And
back in the day, you mentioned Cronkite and Peter Jennings, and
Dan
they
Rather,
were
Tom,
luminaries in the
Ted
news.
Koppel.
yeah.
Ted Koppel, exactly. They were. I mean, Walter
Sam
Cronkite was the most
Donaldson.
trusted man
Yeah.
in America.
Sam
You know,
Donaldson.
I
Yeah,
met
and
Sam Donaldson. He's a dick.
well he died.
Nice.
He um
Doesn't make him any less of a dick. Now he's just a
Well,
dick.
also, just to Tor's point, like with those numbers, can you imagine, like now, thanks to things like X and YouTube and like all of that, like even cable news numbers must have been a lot higher before. You know what I mean? Like before the internet. Because now,
oh yeah.
I
I
mean,
would also
crazy.
think that the accuracy of the numbers back then wouldn't be near what they are now.
Well, they had
I mean,
they
they
had a
could,
different rating. Yeah, the Nielsen system relied on volunteer reporting, right, of a sampling of people. That's how they used to do it. Now it's just done, without you knowing
mhm.
on your
Right.
phone. But to your point, Tor, that is a great point. I mean, I don't know specifically about news shows, but I'm sure it's trended down. And if you look at something like, you always hear those stories about like the last episode of MASH, when was that, like 1984 or something?
Yeah.
And it had like 45 million people
still the
watching it,
record,
or
isn't it?
80 million people. Yeah, I think it still holds the record. It's just because more people, you had less people, but it was being, that pie was being divided by less
Stuff.
options.
Well, and it was,
You had like
and
three
also
options.
it was only at that time.
It was
You
only at
didn't
that
have this,
time.
you didn't have this repeat if necessary kind of
Yeah.
And
vibe with
and this
any of
And
that
no
stuff.
point,
TiVo.
and Tor just backed into a great point that I hadn't even thought of, but just to put a point on it. There was a And I'm not saying this as a man, those were the good old days and now it sucks. It's different today. But back then there was a shared experience, right? Like people,
Yeah.
like just entertainment. Everyone, there was like, 5 movies that you would go see. There were only 3 television shows on at any given time, unless you're watching like UHF stations. So when you would go into the water cooler the next day, and you said, "Oh man, did you guys see MASH last night?" Like 80% of the people would be like, "Oh yeah." Now it's like you walk in like, "Hey, did you see this?" You're like, "No, no, I didn't see. I was watching Breaking Bad, or I was binging whatever." Because and I think that is kind of getting into what I'm talking about, where we are kind of living in our own
Myopic, I
private
guess.
realities, right? And
Our own little
our
microcosms.
own little by of our own creation, or that is being created for us, or a combination. So you have the TV news, and now you get into the world of, the internet comes around. We're in the 90s. Again, this data is from December. And this is website traffic. This is clicks per month. New York Times, 445 million. I mean, that's just astounding to me. I mean, there's only 330 million people in the country. Um, CNN, and this is, so if you look at total, so basically you've got, what's that? A billion, 1.2, 1 point, call it 1.3 billion clicks a month combined over all of these. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty
Can I
incredible.
say something about the New York Times? I feel like they're a little bit, that's a little bit of a skewed number because you can click on New York Times all you want. You get about 4 words read and then it pops up, oh, you can't read this article.
The paywall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing, Desiree. So that is true. If you go to NewYorkTimes.com or if you go to a site or whatever that's linking to it that doesn't have an agreement with them or doesn't pay them for content, like
Mhm.
what we're going to get into here in a minute, then yeah, that paywall stays up. There are, like, if you go
You ever
to
try to erase the paywall? Like, I wonder how much I can
mm-mm.
read before that shit pops up.
No, I haven't done that. But some sites, they have these agreements, and if they have a New York Times article, you can read it. But yeah, that's a great point. I know New York Times has a paywall. I don't think these other ones do. I don't know about USA Today.
Well,
Um,
also, wait, as far as the Times goes, wasn't there a story that during Doge they found out that the government tax money was going to pay for excessive amounts of subscriptions for
yes,
federal workers?
that was one bit to get through that paywall. Yes, that is true. I remember that.
Yeah.
Um, So again, we have the TV news. This is something that came up, say, I'll say in the alts, even though the internet started in the 90s, really alts into the teens. This
Yeah,
really
the
started
phone.
blowing up. Then you get into social media, which is, again, this is less specific. A lot of these companies do not release their data, which I found interesting. So this is
Got to pay
based
for
on
it.
surveys. Yeah, you'd have to pay for it. So these are based on like independent surveys. I think this was done by Gallup. And again, I also apologize for doing a show on news and journalism and all this stuff, and I have no references. No, I'm not citing any of this. So I'll do
That's all right.
that.
We'll take you
You know,
for your
you know
I'll
ability
what's
to make this
funny?
shit up.
You know what's funny
I'll
about this list is I want to say 4 out of the 5 owners of these different entities are on the Epstein list.
Zuckerberg. Who owns
Yep.
YouTube? That's
YouTube is
Google.
Google, right?
Hmm.
That guy. I don't know about Instagram, but I think
It's
Instagram falls under Facebook.
that's under
It does.
Facebook.
And then Elon Musk, as much as unfortunate as it is, he's in the mix in some way, shape, or form. That's
Yeah,
that
well, I heard that was all a hoax too, but we can move
right,
on.
but it's still alarming that
Yeah, it
that many
is.
people in charge of this significant of a news source,
Hmm.
these sources that we'll call it, we'll leave Elon out of it because I just want to anyway. But it's still 3 out of the 5 are legitimately in the Epstein files.
Well, also
Yeah.
just to
Well, if that means that
if you
there's
If they
emails
exist.
exchanged, then I mean, like to
Then
say,
Elon
like,
is, yeah.
it
yeah,
means
okay.
I
mentioned
think
when
TikTok's the only one that doesn't fall under it because they're out of China or something, right?
well, not anymore, but yeah, they originally.
Originally, yeah.
But the other thing, just to throw this out there, so like on The View, they have like the legal minutes. Just the legal minute. If you're named in the quote unquote Epstein files, it does not mean that you're guilty of anything. If
No,
your
no, I,
name
I
is
Right.
completely
mentioned by
understand that,
someone
but
else, then you are mentioned in the Epstein file. Just saying. I'm
Right.
not
no, no,
saying
no,
it makes you
I,
innocent either,
Yeah,
but
right,
and also Zeus, we should probably save this anyway for an Epstein Files update episode, which I'm
right,
interested in
but
Yeah.
doing.
I think it applies to this in that where we're getting our news from.
yeah, who are these
Oh,
Three,
people?
sure.
we'll
Yeah,
No
call it
doubt.
we'll say it's 3 out of the 5 here.
who's
Three out of
And
the
I
making
don't
five.
really know,
decisions?
honestly, X could be because who owned Twitter? Because
Jack
really,
Yeah,
Dorsey.
Jack
but he
Dorsey.
bought it and he changed it. I personally don't think that he has anything to do with it. It sounds like he was like, "Fuck that, I don't want to go there." But no,
Well,
but I'm talking about the significance of if we leave that out, it's still 60% of these sources are owned by people that are implicated to some
mentioned.
degree with some really barbaric shit. Just
Mentioned. Yeah.
yeah. just I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I don't think I was digressing, but if you feel like I
No,
was,
no, it's a good point. I mean, I think the other part of that, Zeus, is you're looking at, I mean, you're saying 38% of adults in the United States use Facebook. Um,
Yeah.
that's an enormous, I mean, that's an enormous number. It's 2 out of 5. And it's owned by a person, right? Facebook's not publicly traded, is it?
I don't
I
think
don't,
so.
maybe it is. Yeah, there are shares. It is publicly traded. But still, as far as like you're talking so much control in such a small group of people's hands, which is a whole other part of this.
Right. And plus, especially the fact that Zuckerberg admitted after the fact that he worked with the government basically to cover shit up and direct people in other directions.
It
He
makes it a
said,
lot easier, yeah,
well, he
when
said
you have
he
a few
said he did
people.
it. He said the FBI put pressure on them, and they
Correct.
and so they did it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, a lot of that, and you look at like the Twitter files and all that, you have this situation where you have these companies with this immense power,
Control.
right?
Yeah.
All these eyeballs, and they are regulated, for better, for worse, for a lot or a little. They have oversight of them from the government, and then you have people in the government that may or may not, whose interests may or may not align with the general population as far as like making sure they're informed. They may want
Right.
them to think a certain way. So yeah, it's definitely, it's ripe for problems, to put
And
it
you can
put
really
it
say
simply.
Facebook and Instagram are the same because
that's what I was saying.
they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
So
same.
then
Well, no,
58% of
no, it's separate. So that, yeah, this is, so you could have crossover. So this adds up to greater than 100%. So people could say, oh, I'm on Facebook and TikTok. That's why this adds up. So does that make sense? So it wouldn't
right,
Yes.
but
necessarily be
58% of the most used social media
Is
owned by
Zuckerberg.
one person.
is owned by one person.
It's
That's
bananas.
wild.
That
And
is
and
bananas.
it's probably higher than this because everybody who you know what I mean, so many millions have Facebook. And whether you consider it a news source or not. See, that was my issue with the list is I have no trust in like the news sources anymore because they're going to omit stories that I'm interested in
Yeah.
or they're just going to lie to me for the government. Like COVID taught me that.
Yeah.
Right, but
Russiagate
this
taught me
the
that.
same
Hunter Biden's laptop taught me that. So, like, to me, they're not even news. So, if I'm a person who has Facebook, like I think Tor said this, you'll see a story and be like, oh, that's interesting. Now
yeah.
I'll go look that story up. But
Hmm.
you're initially getting the story from this app that so many people have. That's why I think it's probably higher than 38%. You know what I mean? Like,
I think this was daily. People that say they use it daily was, so that's probably affecting it. And the other thing is, yeah, these are not news sources, right? So these are channels, I guess you would say. I mean, there are news sources on these networks,
right.
and people get news from others.
Yep.
They're not, I guess these aren't the content creators, right? These are
Correct. No, they're more like the water cooler we
The
talked
content
about.
generators.
yeah, yeah. Um,
See, what I like about X though is like when you follow certain like these street journalists, like these guys like Nick Sorter and the guy who busted up the Somali, like these are guys on the ground at the protests in Minneapolis, reporting, filming,
Don
mhm.
Lemon.
like filming
Don Lemon.
yeah, well, no, not even Don Lemon, but just like
Yeah.
these dudes, and they're like they'll get pulled over by these roving hordes of obstructors, and then they'll be questioned and like, where's your ID? And get out of your car. Like these are just people with phones, and they're
Mhm.
posting on X. So to me, that is news because I'm looking at it, like I'm
Oh
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah.
but then it's
No,
like
it
porn.
is, but those are like the podcast. I mean, I guess, but they're the content creators, like a Nick Sorter. But the channel of YouTube is not creating that.
Correct, correct. No, I just mean versus like Fox News or
Oh
CNN,
yeah,
which is going to not report on something or misreport on something.
yeah. YouTube, um, and these people that are like the private or the citizen journalists, it definitely
Yes.
has made news a lot more
Com-
egalitarian, I guess, right?
yeah,
So
competitive.
competitive. And again, it kind of goes back because the big knock is, well, they're just one person. There's no editorial board, there's no oversight, there's no whatever. But you go back to the early days of like the printing press, and you find out that, again, there was yellow journalism back then. There were papers that were just flat out lying, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
been around, that's not new. But what someone like a Nick
Harder to
Sorter, and
parse though.
I'm sorry?
It's harder to parse now, though, don't you think?
It is harder to parse, but what I'm saying is it's kind of a throwback. Like if you take, and I'm just using Nick Sorter's name, I'm not, has nothing to do with him. But if you watch someone, if there's someone on YouTube that's like a citizen journalist and they're reporting things to you, and you watch them for a certain amount of time, and again, it checks out. Like, after a month or two later, like when you hear the quote unquote rest of the story, you're like, he had it right. So it's all reputation based. If your
Yeah.
reputation sucks, then no one's going to watch you. So there is an incentive to get it right. There's
Yeah.
also an incentive to be inflammatory and get
Get
eyeballs,
clicks.
right? And
Yeah.
just get clicks. But I
Yeah.
think I think that is not as much of a long-term successful thing, because eventually that will catch up with you. But really, like, reputation is what I believe these people are trading on. But anyway,
Well, so are the mass news sources.
so are the mass.
Everything you just said is exactly them. They want clicks, they want eyeballs, so they'll put up the big flashy headline story, and they also have incentives sometimes to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that whole moon landing. Remember that? Oh,
The what? Oh, the moon
that's a
landing.
joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moon
You
landing,
never lie about that
Kennedy,
shit today.
9/11, COVID.
We've come a long way from the news going, there's something in the water that could kill your child. We'll give you more at 11.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
hate
I
that.
mean?
It
And
drives me
here's the
crazy.
sports.
But
It's
they
not,
still
Yeah,
they
it's not
still
much
do that.
different.
They
It's not
still
much
do that
different.
online.
it's
It'll be
guessing
like
amplified.
famous guitarist from 90s band dies in a hot air balloon accident. And you're like, "What?" And then it's like some guy named like Rando Joe that you never heard of before from like
Right.
Milwaukee, and you're like, "Damn it." But they already got your click, So you're
Oh
like
yeah, or
screwed.
they'll be like, dies in freak accident,
Yeah.
colon fiery, and you're like, what the fuck? What? And you click it, and it's like, oh yeah, some unknown person died in a car accident that they caused by themselves, and you're like,
hmm
okay, well,
You're like,
that
"That's
wasn't as
sad.
fun.
That was not as good." So again, these are other ways. I'm sure there's more. I mean, radio shows, kind of a long form discussions like podcasts. I think books are still a good source. I like reading like investigative reporters that put out books, because it's like nice long form with footnotes, if you really want to do a deep dive into a topic. Um, anyway, that was like additional ways of getting news. This is just an example. I'm not trying to be, I just picked this because now we're getting into, and we're getting near the end of the slideshow here, of where we're getting into like how people are getting their news. And if you look at the statistics, the vast majority of news that people are getting, even though it may be generated by Nick Sorter, it may be written by the New York Times. It may be published by ABC News. It may come from Huffington Post, whatever. But the way people are having it delivered to them, like the mailman or the UPS guy, whatever, is through Google News, Apple News, MSN, and Yahoo. Those four are like far and away. Like number five is like a distant number five. And this article, this was from talking about January that I read. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is and this is, again, this is sourced. I'll put the references in the description. But this is an example. You have an organization like Apple News, and this organization, they track, they have a metric of five, like heavy left leaning, neutral, right, and heavy
Well,
right leaning, and 620 to 0 were what Apple published. Now that's not saying Apple is not throttling um, more conservative websites. It gets back to like what I was saying before. They're just not letting them through. Like they're not
well,
getting onto they're
let's
not
just
letting it through your
look at
feed.
the headings there, though, Mike, right? Top stories from left-leaning and other outlets.
hmm
What's other, and why is other not on the
I
right?
think it's central.
Why is that not
I'll
right?
look it up. That's
You
a
know,
great
like,
question.
and the other
Sure.
thing is
Yeah.
the Associated Press is left leaning.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really?
100%. Yeah.
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 They
So
even,
is Reuters.
yeah. I mean, that's been,
Okay.
I mean, again, Tor, there is opinion in this, but yes, I mean, objectively, and again, this is a research group that researches news. They're not always one way or the other. I just found this particular one because I was kind of doing a deep dive into Apple News.
Have
Um,
you guys ever gone to Ground News?
yeah, yeah, that's
Oh,
coming
okay.
up.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Um, which is this. That was a great segue, Desiree. And
Oh,
this is not an ad for Ground News. There's other sites that do this. But I find this kind of interesting. Again, if anything of value, you have to pay for it, right? If you're not paying for it, what do they say? Then you're the product.
if it's free, then you're the product.
If it's free, then you're the product. But I kind of like because the natural thing is like, well, Michael, you're taking us through the slideshow. You've talked about this for now, what, half an hour, 45 minutes? What do I do? And I'm like, I don't know if this is the answer, but I kind of like this general model. Again, I'm not endorsing Ground News. This is their pay structure.
Well, I
But
thought Ground News
basically,
was free.
it can be, but these are things that
Oh,
you can purchase, right? So I love this, the item number 4, factuality score for publishers. And I talked to a friend that's on this, the Burst Your Bubble newsletter. You get a newsletter and it's all like articles from places that you don't ever check. So it's just sort of like to kind of keep an eye on your blind spot, right? So they purposely send you things that
Yeah,
you wouldn't
but
normally look at,
I
which I
can't
thought
even
was a great idea.
I
Blind
can't even
spot
really
feed.
trust that because like you remember when like Snopes was your go-to for
yeah, I was about to
all
say.
shit and you come to find out that they are very, very left. Very. And
Well,
and
but
Well,
this
this
is
so
isn't,
yeah, so is PolitiFact and Media Matters. Like
yeah.
that's
yeah,
all out at this
but
point.
this isn't a
Yeah.
source. This is an aggregator. Ground News is an aggregator site. So they're pooling, they're overlaying, they're pulling things for you to look at. But anyway, I just thought this was an interesting model heading forward. The let me go back to wow, look how big everybody is.
Hi.
But yeah, you get these 4, and where I'll kind of leave off this part of the conversation, you have these 4 organizations. You got MSN that is built in on board with all Microsoft and PCs that you get, laptops, desktop, they all come with it on board. You get an iPhone, you have Apple News, it's already on board. You have an Android, you have Google
Hmm.
News, it's already on there. I don't think Yahoo has anything, but you have to
Oh,
ask
well,
for
I get
Yahoo.
so on my Android, I get Samsung News. And again, and I'm not trying to, this isn't like to denigrate the left, but their slant on Samsung News, like the provided by Samsung, is extremely left as well. It's always like Trump's a bastard, blah, blah, blah. There's never like
Well,
any positive,
again,
uh,
it's what there's someone or some algorithm or something in Apple News that's a gatekeeper, right? There has to be. It's either AI deciding it, which is a whole other level because now you're starting to get into AI and like there's a lot of moving parts on this.
it's funny you mention AI because like the big concern with AI, I think we'll all agree, is
Skynet.
who's running it, right? So
Yeah.
like if
And
it's
jobs is a big one.
what's that?
Jobs,
Oh no,
employment.
no, no, no. That's not what I'm talking about. The big concern with AI is who's running it, whose ideals are behind the AI, and it's very much the same with the news that
Mark
comes
Right.
out.
Zuckerberg's.
Oh, sure.
Who's running the news? So, we could say that this grounded news is great, but if the guy on top is far right, there's going to be a slant.
Well,
Maybe
here's
he
Well,
covers
the
it
thing about it is
well.
not slanted. It just shows you the thing, and then it tells you how much percent of it was reported by left-leaning news sources and what percent was reported by right-leaning.
I
I mean,
I'm
it doesn't
I'm
really.
I get you, but I'm more skeptical that can be manipulated as well.
Well,
Here,
Zeus, you said
yeah.
your biggest source of news is Fox News, right? That's
Um,
incredibly slanted, right?
I don't really watch
Mhm.
the news, but when
Okay, I
I
was just looking at
do,
your thing,
yeah,
at your responses, but that's incredibly slanted, right? Right?
I think Fox News sometimes is a lays back a
They're right.
little.
it's
They're
right.
pretty far right.
Yes, but I've heard stuff on Fox News that matches completely with stuff that I've heard on alternate. CNN,
But
not
that
so
doesn't
much.
matter. But that's irrelevant to
CNN has
who
died to the wool.
you're worried about the person that's the aggregator, the whoever the top level is, right? Murdoch is definitely far right, and he's
Well,
from
yeah,
top
there's no
down.
doubt. There's no doubt.
Doesn't that affect? I mean, the biggest issue that I have about talking about when you said the AP is left leaning, the AP is generally, I mean, it's
The AP
news bulletin.
has not been middle
If
for
you're going to
10
say
years
that, then
past.
you have to say that Fox is way right, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Fox is
They're
definitely the
definitely right.
conservative news outlet.
They're
Like
definitely conservative. What I'm saying is I've heard them put down their own side on more than one occasion. I don't ever see that on CNN. And where I work, CNN is all. Tell me a time where CNN said, "Hey, we're wrong. Those guys are right." I'd love to see it.
I mean, I get fed a lot of stuff on CNN that has Scott Jennings giving the right wing perspective,
well, yeah.
equal setting on the roundtables as everybody else. I mean, they definitely present all perspectives or try to, probably more than MSNBC and probably
Well,
definitely
wait a minute.
Fox
Yeah,
News,
but
right?
Fox News has a show called The Five, and they've got a liberal on there, just like Scott Jennings is on CNN. Like, I mean, they both do
Yep.
that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
trust either of those opposing figures on those shows because they work for those uh, networks. I
But
get what you're
here,
saying. I'm just saying
I
that
mean, at
I
some point though,
see.
like when we talked about like I go to CNN if something's happening in the world, oh shit, I want to see what's going on and see live coverage.
Yep.
At some point, the news is the news, right? News like it can have a slant, the reporters can have a slant, their bosses can have a slant, but what you're seeing is not always tainted by that perspective.
Oh, I
I'm
don't
going
know
to
about
argue that
that.
it's always tainted by that
yeah,
perspective.
I think
Then Fox News is everything that just
Yeah,
on
you're right.
Fox
No,
News.
Tor, there's no
no,
doubt that they
yeah,
have
there's no
their
doubt.
slant
I
too.
agree.
But there's that
But
like
have you
in
ever like read a Washington Post article?
oh
Yeah,
Ooh,
but like
makes me
again,
shiver.
it depends on what like at some point true news outlets have to go through sourcing, they have to go through vetting.
Yeah,
They're
but they
not just
also have
putting out hold
editorial
on.
boards, Tor. They have editorial
Yeah, of
boards, and they'll
course.
tell you they'll cover the stories that they want to cover and not cover the
I'm not saying
stories
that,
and the
Jack. I'm
facts
not saying that. I agree with you on that. That goes on every news.
everywhere.
You're talking about the Daily News, you're talking about the Times, you're talking about the Post.
Yep.
That happens everywhere. That's slanted by their editorialism. At some point, though, the reporting of we're not going to argue over the reporting of a baseball game, right?
Correct.
Right? We're not going to argue over reporting of certain things that are just news. When you look at the
Oh,
AP and
all
what
right,
the AP
understood.
reports, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, objective news,
at some
objective
point we
facts.
exactly. At some point we've gotten to the point now where news is not news, news is opinion, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You talk about Hannity, you talk about O'Reilly, you talk about Rachel Maddow. At some point, their opinion is what makes them who they are. It's
Yeah.
not
correct.
the news.
Yeah, they're
It's
exactly
their take on the news,
That's right.
correct.
right?
They're a
So
commentator.
at some point, like again, at some point, CNN. I don't know this for a fact, Zeus, but CNN offers retractions if they make mistakes, right? Because they get called out on shit,
And
right?
sued.
They get
Well,
sued.
I think all news
Fox got
sources
sued for
should.
by Dominion, right? Like they get called out on shit. You have to at some point the idea the ideal of what the news is lost by some of these entities that have taken editorialism to the extreme, right? The New York Times used to be one of the most trusted periodicals in the world, and now it's lefty, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that every article, every reporter, every single thing that's written by them is skewed to a lefty stance? I don't believe that.
They
Oh,
well,
I do.
don't
Every
forget.
single
No, but
story,
it may have
man.
been
Don't
going on far
So
longer than we thought.
don't forget. It was only a few years ago that they offered Tom Cotton to write the was it Tom Cotton to write the editorial, and the entire newsroom like threatened to quit, and the guy got fired, the head editorial guy, for allowing him, and they axed it. I'm just saying there is New York Times. I mean, we can do a whole 10 episodes on the New York Times. I mean, but to get back to just wrap this up, because, and I hear what we're saying about news. I think what I'm what I'm asking is for people to look at it not just news, but look at it like just as media. And when I say as media, I mean like inputs coming into your head throughout the day from all
Mhm.
these different locations. You look in, I don't know if any of you guys have been in taking any marketing classes or whatever, but in general, it's kind of a general rule of thumb is that it takes 10 to 20 impressions to get someone to take action on something. So like, an ad for toilet paper, if you see it two times, probably not going to have a big effect on you. That's why Coca-Cola advertises all the time, because they constantly are trying to get new kids are growing up, whatever. People are dying, new people are being born. But if you it's not just the story, it's the story being told a certain way from a certain perspective again and again and again and again and again and again, that starts to have an influence on public opinion. Because I think one thing we can all agree on, I hope, is that public opinion, I don't care where you are on the spectrum, is being so incredibly influenced by all these things we just talked about, I mean, and this funnel of these large companies, again, Apple, MSN, Google, and Yahoo, that act as a funnel that take in all of this content that gets created, and they siphon it down, and they choose what is going to go through that funnel and what's not. And then you have the vast majority of people in the country who are getting their news from those four outlets. I just think that's an immense amount of power. I mean, again, I looked at recent
yeah,
Gallup poll,
hmm,
and
good.
this is, and then I'll jump off this, but um, this was a Gallup poll in January. 28% of Americans, quote unquote, somewhat believe the media. 28%. That's horrible. And 8% said that they fully trust the media. 8%. That is, and I will believe this to my dying day. In my opinion, for a civil society, that is dangerous. Like when you have the population of any country, and only 8% fully trust what they're being told by the media.
Well, we're in the
That's
92%,
that's
right?
problems. What?
Everybody here is in the 92% on that, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the 92% on that one. Um,
Oh yeah.
anyway, I just thought that stuff was interesting, and really, again, the MSN, Google, Apple, and Yahoo, we could do a whole other episode just on that. Um, but the
I
reason,
wanted to
yeah,
question you a little bit on that, Mike. I think that um, I understand what you're saying when those people are initiating the funnel, but what they want is engagement,
correct,
and they're going to feed you what you want.
correct,
So Google can feed you right or
to an
left,
extent, to an extent.
depending on what you want. You're going to get fed more of what you want, no matter which one of those sources you go to.
But this
Not
is,
those news, not to
yeah,
cover like news. I mean, like if you open MSN in the morning, you turn on your PC or you open Apple News, they're presenting you like the first news stories that you're going to see. And that's the news that they want to report. Those are the sources that
yeah.
they want to cite.
Well,
And so that's how you get your news. You're like, wow, Trump sucks. Trump sucks. He's doing this now. Oh my God, look at the
If
Dow.
you
Oh,
believe Trump
you know what I
sucks,
mean? Like that's
you're
your
going to
news.
get, hold on. If you believe Trump sucks, that's what you're going to get fed.
I would say
I don't
No,
know.
not gonna-
I don't
no,
eat sucks, and I'm
hold on.
always
no,
getting fed.
no,
Hold
that's
on.
not Tor. That's
I get
not
fed that
true.
too.
That's not true at all.
Jack, that's
Yeah.
I worked at a digital company where we're one of the biggest
Tor,
companies in the
Tor,
world.
if you turn on Tor,
on.
if you turn on your PC at the same time that I do, we're both going to get the headlines that MSN News wants us to read. And I like
Jack,
Trump, and you
Jack,
don't. And it's
Jack,
the
no,
same story.
Hold on, but are you going to go to MSN News?
I have no choice. I turn my computer on, and boom, those are the first news stories that come on.
Do you engage with it
Do I click on a news story? Of course.
from MSNBC?
If that's what I'm looking at in the morning, that's all I have access
That's
to
a
at
big-
work.
That's a big if, right? If you, with your choice, the way algorithms work, right? They don't want to feed you stuff you're not going to click on because that's not what they're there for.
I don't think we're talking about the
I'm
same
gonna disagree
thing.
with that, Tor.
Well, hold on.
It's
I think if
absolutely
you
the
click
same
on
thing.
something, that it automatically affects the next things that you get. They're trying to guide you. I don't think algorithms are.
That's
are
absolutely not
necessarily-
true. That's
No,
absolutely not
No,
true.
Tor, I get
Well,
what you're
let's
saying
put it this
about.
way.
I get what you're saying about algorithms. That definitely applies to like things that I look at on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. But when I
Absolutely.
but if I Google a topic, let's say online, okay, on
You are
Google,
going to get
I
fed
put
based
in.
on your algorithm.
No, that's not true,
That's not-
Tor.
Not
It
at
is.
all. Not at all.
Tor, if I look up Minnesota protesters, the first 4 or 5 stories and video links I'm going to get are going to be the ones that Mike talked about, and they're all going to cite leftist sources. So I'm going to be reading the same liberal garbage on all of them. I have to go
absolutely not true.
someplace. I have to go someplace
If
on
you're
my
talking about
own.
searching in Google, if you're talking about searching, Google tracks your history. They know what you like. They know what you're going to watch. They are not going to purposely feed you stuff that you don't like or will disagree with. That's
Yeah, they do.
I disagree. I think
I
it's
would
how you word
disagree.
your question.
the whole
Let's
point
do an
of
experiment.
algorithms. The whole
Yeah,
point.
I'm doing
Yeah,
an
yeah,
experiment
yeah.
right now.
The problem
Yeah,
with
let's
these.
all
Hold
let's
on.
all Google something right now. You got your phone,
Well, no.
Tor?
Sure.
Minnesota protesters. That's all.
Let's put that in.
That's it.
Well, I did something else, but yeah.
No, put it in, Mike.
You
Oh,
got to put the exact thing in.
okay. What
That's
is
the
it?
Minnesota
experiment.
protesters. Just
Minnesota
that.
protesters.
Minnesota. Well, just while we're doing this, the whole reason I put up that slide of the Apple News where it had like 620 from left-leaning sites and none from that's where that what's going into the funnel is not, it's not 50-50. What's going into the funnel is heavily tilted, at least in that study. Again, things
So
can
now we're
change,
going to click
but
on
that's
news,
what they were
right?
getting at.
Desiree?
I just clicked on all.
Okay. My first
But, I mean, you
thing,
can do news.
clergy members arrested in anti-ICE, blah, blah, blah. It's a YouTube video.
Okay, well, don't look at
I
the
don't
videos.
get that. I get
Okay,
CBS
so the
News, Minnesota. I get Outkick. I get the Times. I get NPR and NBC News.
What
I
kind of
get
phone are you using?
CBS, Yahoo, Wikipedia, and BBC.
All based on what you guys look at, guys.
Well, no, but hold
PBS,
on. Let me.
Yahoo, Wikipedia, and then
BBC.
a collection of videos. Yeah, not the BBC, but I have
Believe
the
me,
first three.
I worked at a huge digital company. They talk about impressions. They talk about clicks. That's what these people get paid on. They're
Right.
not-
Yeah,
No,
but
I'm not
Tor, we're
disagreeing with
Tor, we're talking
way that
about two
works.
different things, Tor.
No, we're not,
I'm
man.
I'm
It's the
granting
same
you. I'm granting you the existence of algorithms and how, like, when I go to Facebook, I'm inundated by
Yeah.
horror movies and rock and roll because they know that I'm interested in it. I wish they would throw me more politics on Facebook, but they don't because I don't use it for that. YouTube's a whole different story. So
And
I agree with you
the
about
proof is in- wait,
algorithms,
but the
but
proof is in
I'm
the
also
pudding.
aware of what Mike's talking about, that the 4 major news sources that it throws, if I Google a topic, Google is going to direct me to news sources that all lean left. It doesn't matter. Like,
Is that
it's
what
not
you
going to
just
lead
got?
me.
The
It's not
top
going to
one for
lead
me
me
is
to the
CBS
post.
News. CBS
It's
News
not.
does not lean left. I just
Who
did
doesn't?
Minnesota protesters. We clicked on news, just like we all said. The top video is CBS News. That is doesn't
Okay.
they do not lean left, right?
Not
What?
Yes.
CBS News does not lean left, right?
do.
No, that's totally wrong.
They do.
They
Who's-
totally
you
do.
guys-
Who's the Barry Weiss? Is it right? Isn't she
What, for like 10
head of-
minutes?
I
isn't
mean,
she the head of CBS News now?
she's being pilloried by people that work there
That's
being
irrelevant.
far
Why is
right.
she? Why?
But
No, but what I'm
hold on,
saying
wait,
is
wait,
the
wait, let's get
culture-
back. Wait, let's
Wait,
get
no,
back.
let's get
time
back
out.
to the
Tor,
experiment.
she's been there for 5 minutes.
Hold on.
So
and
now
let's
they
get
don't
back-
lean left?
So
Guys.
you're saying that she has no influence?
Hold on.
She just got there. You're asking if CBS leans left or not. And my answer is absolutely they do.
Okay.
Maybe
But
it's
hold
going
on,
to change.
here's
Tor,
my
maybe
question.
Maybe you're right. Maybe she's going to right the ship.
Does
I don't
CNN
know.
lean left?
Guys,
Yeah.
let me ask you a
CNN's
question.
who's their major donor?
Desiree,
With a
Desiree,
major board
your
member now?
three, your
What's his
top
name?
three matched my top three. Mike, did your top three,
Let
were
me go
they
back.
CBS, Yahoo?
And I'm not
then
talking about the videos.
No, I know. The top three when it gets into like stories was CBS,
I had
Yahoo, and Wikipedia.
I had AP, CBS, and Star Tribune.
I have CBS.
Now you did
Outkick,
this
and
on
the
Google
Times.
and you typed in Minnesota protesters.
Okay, so did anybody get the Post Millennial? Did anybody get the Daily Wire?
No.
Nope.
No,
Okay, that's what we're talking about, Tor. It's got nothing to do with algorithms.
I got AP, and I never ever.
We
I
all got
refuse to
Now,
different
check
things.
AP
hold on.
anymore.
Why do you think we got
everyone,
different things?
everyone who got the CBS, what is
Yeah.
the article titled?
It was like Minnesota protesters
BCA
paid like
committed
the
to
Trump administration. Yeah.
finding a way to work with feds on Alex Pretty probe.
And then the
That's the one I
Yahoo
got
was
too, Mike.
protesters in multiple states press target to oppose the immigration.
Okay, got that.
Wikipedia was 2026 Minnesota ICE protest. Then when we get into BBC, it was
Trump tests boundaries of his power as Minnesota
Yep.
pushes back.
And then it
Then
goes
I got
to
Reddit.
I didn't get BBC.
William Kelly is out of custody and back to the streets.
Okay, so just again to confirm, nobody got the Daily Wire or the Post Millennial, right?
No.
No,
Okay, what about that other Washington paper, the Washington Herald? Did you get that?
no.
No.
Okay,
Or the
that's the
Times.
point, Tor. That's the
And you-
point, because those are the news
But, Tor,
sites
what
that I
did you
go
get?
to, and they're never offered to me. I have to go
Okay.
hunt them down.
Washington Times, New York Post. You never see New York Post or
No,
Washington Times
you don't.
pop up there. But
That
again,
was
Tor,
that was a
Tor,
great little experiment, Desiree.
what did you get again, Tor?
I
You
got
get the
CBS
CBS.
News, I got Outkick, I got the Times, and NPR. Were my first four.
Okay.
It's different.
Here-
The point
here-
is,
It is
the-
different,
The
but-
reason that it's different is because of your tendencies.
But
That's
Tor,
why.
I just told you that's not why. That the reason why I'm not getting
Why is
Daily
it different
Wire
then,
or
Jack?
Post Millennial
Why is
or
it
the
different then,
Washington
Jack?
Herald. Why am I not getting those when those are the ones I prefer and click on intentionally
day.
all the time? I don't get them because they don't want me to.
And I forgot that CBS even existed. So
well, one thing, like I said, part of what I was thinking about all this stuff, and it's more of like a self-awareness for everybody, is what you are. Again, it's like media, news. News has become media. Media is advertising. It's looking for clicks. It's looking for eyeballs. It's trying to keep you in their ecosystem. So when people talk about politics and like, Tor and I, we don't talk to each other that often, right? Just on this show, really, right? So
Yep.
we have our own little lives. We're off doing our own little thing. And we have, as evidence from like last week's show, and I'm nothing against Tor at all. I mean, or for me, but we have totally different ways of looking at stuff. And to me, like I know Tor's an intelligent guy, right? So it's not because, man, Tor's dumb, Yes, I know it's not that. So what is going on? And I think what is going on is we are all in our own reality, man. It's and to your point, Tor, some things were getting fed, some things were getting denied, some things we just want it, so we click on it and we get more of it. Whatever it is, I'm just saying people need to be aware that not everyone, we're not all playing from the same deck. We're just not. And I'm not saying that we're not all playing from the same facts, because the facts are the facts, right? The news is the news. But being able to omit things, like not talking about certain things.
Sure,
Like,
I can understand that.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
then
like,
have a question. So like getting into some specificities of things, right?
right.
We last week when we started to talk about Renee Good again, we don't want to relitigate it. There's things that happen. And I
Yeah.
said that one of the things, well, I asked about the gentleman's training, the officer's training. Law enforcement is trained not to stand in front of a vehicle
Okay.
because you are not going to win a battle of car versus person. So that's why I brought up his training, right? We talked about body cams, and Mike said he did have a body cam.
It was a
Like, no, he
phone.
didn't. He had his own phone.
Well, that was my mistake, right?
right. Yeah, but again, like it's how we perceive things and how things were given to you, right?
Correct.
So the beginning of that video, I don't know if you saw it, where he actually interacts with Renee Good through her window. Did you see that part of it?
I've seen more than I care to, but yes.
So when she says, "I don't have an issue with you," she says it very cordially. She says it
Right.
smiling, right? This wasn't a confrontation like that. But we get fed things, and
Well,
our perception is influenced by many, many things,
but
right?
how about if you add the rest of the story that she had been following these people and blocking the street all day long and giving them the finger. Did you see the part where she gives them the finger and where
again, I don't have a problem
wife,
with that, man.
but where her wife,
you know,
but it's
And
there,
she was
she's
500
impeding a
miles
police
away
operation.
from her home.
No, my point is, Tor,
how far was she?
Literally like
Wait,
500
we're not going to
miles.
relitigate this shit
Hold on.
this
This is
week.
important because this is one of the things
she
that
was
got me
from
into
Kansas
this, right?
City originally.
Yes,
Yeah.
but she lives in Minnesota now.
She lives in Minnesota now.
She's not 500 miles from home, Zeus. You started that discussion with that quote. That's what got back into you guys because I was sitting in the hospital with nothing to do. And you said 500
And you tuned to us. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Tor.
want to see what's
We're
going
number
on.
one in
She said-
hospitals.
Hold on.
Yeah.
She said, you said she was 500 miles from home. No, she wasn't. She lives in Minnesota now. And then later in the episode, Jack repeated that, right? So something that was misinformation got said, and then it got repeated, and then it's still being taken as fact by you guys.
So where did she live?
She's
I
from
didn't take that as
Minneapolis.
fact.
I know, no, I know, but so I also heard that she lived on that street, and then I heard she didn't live on that street.
I don't know where she lived, but she lived in
I heard
Minneapolis.
she drove an
She
hour
just
and a
dropped
half
her
to be
kids
there
off
that
at
day.
daycare.
That's what I heard after dropping the kid off
I
daycare.
know that she
Yeah.
That's
had
what I
not
heard.
lived in Minnesota for very long. I do
That's
know
not
that.
what was said,
I understand, but
right?
to
So
go back,
again, but hold on, that's water cooler then, right? So
correct.
at the water cooler, Zeus said she was 500 miles from home. No, she wasn't. And then Jack repeated that, right?
Right, that
So all
happens
of a
all the
sudden-
time. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, something that's not true is not fact checked,
Okay.
and it's not and it's taken as fact.
But how
Right.
about going? I want to go back to, which I think is even a greater point. When I said that she was blocking the road and giving the finger to the cops, and her wife was yelling at the cops, and you said you don't have a problem with that.
I don't.
That is textbook definition impeding a police operation. You
Fine.
can be arrested for that.
Fine, arrest her.
So
That's,
they were
that's what
right.
protesters
They told
want.
her to
That's
get
fine.
out of the car 4 times, and she didn't. And then she hit the gas. I'm saying
then-
not to
Sure.
relitigate it,
Again,
but that is
my point was
it's easy to just
we're
cast those
parsed
facts
by-
aside.
I don't push that aside.
Okay,
No,
but you just,
Tor, if you're saying that one person could state something that's not true and then another
what I'm trying
person
to
could take it at face value, especially when they talk to the guy every week, then that happens. You
Of
know what I mean?
course.
Like people make
Of course.
mistakes. Maybe
but-
maybe she lived 100 miles away. Maybe she was from another part of Minnesota. Like I don't even know exactly how long, but you know, if it's 500 miles, it's like okay, it's fine. If it was 5 miles, I wouldn't give a shit. The lady shouldn't have been doing what she was doing.
That's not the point, Jack. The point is something that's not fact was taken as fact.
I
and
got that.
repeated, right?
right, but
So then that happens in every
All
walk
the
of life,
time.
in every bubble, right?
Yeah.
but here's
So
a
couple
question.
hold on, a couple
Yeah.
of things that I wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Maduro before, right? I'm not gonna. Whatever we want, coup d'état, Venezuela. He had a warrant for his arrest. All of those things, whatever the justification, leave it at it was drug related. Can we agree on that?
I mean, I don't know that
That's
was the
what they
main
said.
reason,
I don't know.
but
It
yeah,
might have
was
been
definitely
totally
related. It's part of the story.
it could be totally oil related, and I would be
Sure.
okay with it.
Fine. What about the Honduran president that was pardoned?
Yeah,
Do you guys know that story?
So
I don't.
I
By who?
do.
This
right.
is important because now this is what
He
we talk
was-
about bubbles, right? So go ahead, Mike. So tell me about him.
No. When I don't know everything about it, I do know that he was pardoned and he was credibly accused with was it?
He
I
was
don't remember
convicted.
what the drug was.
he,
Yeah,
he was convicted of smuggling over
and he
400
was pardoned.
million
So,
pounds
but what I'm saying is, so you're saying that is there a purity test where once some like what how we deal with the Honduran president is how we have to deal with everybody?
no. My point
Okay.
is, Jack hasn't even heard about that.
Yeah. Well,
No, I didn't
did
know.
you hear about Renee Good was doing what she was doing all day? Did
Yes.
you did hear about that from like
Yeah.
MSNBC? They were like, oh, she was going around
I
all
don't watch
day doing this.
MSNBC.
But what I'm saying is, I didn't hear it from any of those places. I had to dig deep to find that. That's why I'm curious. I still haven't heard that reported in the
By
mainstream
anybody.
press ever. I've never heard them say that. So
I mean, again, I don't follow the mainstream press, but again, my point is, this is something the Honduran president is somebody that was not just credibly accused, he was convicted,
convicted.
right,
Yeah.
of being a huge drug smuggler into the United States,
And he was
400 million
pardoned
pounds of
by
cocaine,
Trump,
something to that effect. And he was
Trump's
pardoned.
administration. Yeah.
And he was
Well,
pardoned.
Yeah, I know. I
cocaine
said he was pardoned.
Right.
is
Yeah.
fine,
So
and
same
fentanyl
idea,
isn't.
right? What the
But what I don't understand that point though. I understand your other points. I just don't understand what that says.
my point
Because
is that Jack, who is somebody who is obviously tuned in to the news,
yeah.
Not today.
had no idea that that happened.
Well, that I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm probably read more news than anyone I've ever known, and there's stuff I don't know. So of course, you can't.
Sure. Again, my point is that does not fit Jack's narrative of
What's
as a right-leaning person. That doesn't fit the idea of the Trump administration fighting drugs. That's antithesis to what would be his worldview.
Oh, so you're saying that's why I didn't know the story, not that I just haven't watched
Exactly.
news in like 5 days.
Exactly. So again, we're
When did
but
he
that's
when
an
did he
old
all
when did,
story.
restricted by
wait,
our
Wait,
when
bubble.
did he
he's got a
no,
hand up.
when did he pardon this guy?
I can find you the
I
date if
think
you
it was a
want.
while ago.
I never
Desiree?
even heard it. So yeah, Tor, to your point, if the news that I cover that I watch didn't cover that story, then you're right. They're slanted, just like the news you watch is slanted as well. I mean,
Of
I
course.
agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. So which one's better?
Well,
They
that's
both
not.
Hold
they're
on.
both not
Desiree's
good.
got
I
a
think that's what
question.
Yeah, that's my
I,
point. Yeah,
that's Mike's point. They're not good.
I'm saying people need to be self-aware about this and
You guys
not.
hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's
No,
up?
just waiting.
Oh,
Fine.
Desiree. Hey. Sorry.
Um, I don't know that there's a difference between the two, like which one was right and which one was wrong, you know? But that Venezuela guy did say, "Come get me, bitch." And so
That's
Trump went and
true.
got him. I mean, that's just trying to be funny.
That is
But
true. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, that is play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
I mean, was it gonna happen anyway? Who's to say? I don't know.
Well,
But
he
he said, "Come get me,"
I
and
don't
so
know why
he
he
did
pardoned the
it.
Honduras guy. I mean, like I don't know what the reasons are for doing it, but I mean, maybe there were reasons that they're beyond. I didn't even know about the story, like Tor said, so I'm not sure.
I will say this: when they were reporting, and the administration was saying, "Oh, we got Maduro because he has an open warrant, in Southern District of New York, and we went and got him because he's breaking the law with like drug." That never in
We
a
got
million
him
years
because he
did.
said,
I
"Come
mean,
get me."
I know, but my point is, in my own mind, like when I first heard that, I was like, there's like 1% where I was like, okay, that has something to do with it. And it was 99%. I was thinking, okay, that's the hook. That's the excuse. Like, what's the reason?
So,
And again, I think the reason is like what Hot Carl was saying is oil. And it's also not just oil. I think the bigger reason, and you talk about stuff no one's talking about, is Venezuela was and Maduro was getting super cozy with Xi, super cozy with Putin. He was already cozy with the Cuban regime for years. Venezuela was supplying Cuba with
now
oil. That's why Cuba's having such a freaking issue now, is their
I do
oil
want to.
pipeline got cut off. So it was geopolitical. You go back to like Monroe Doctrine that Trump is wanting to bring back. I, I, I don't know, but my gut feeling is that it had a lot more to do with China and Putin and Cuba and then oil. It more than it had to do with drugs, which goes back to what you were saying, Tor. It makes it look hypocritical if he pardons the Honduran president because in my opinion, it had nothing to do with that anyway. In other words, the lie is that it did have to do with drugs, in my opinion. And that was for like the first time I heard the
I
story.
totally agree with you. I
And
totally agree with
here's
you.
what I'd like to say this to Tor's credit. I don't believe that algorithms work with the news that we're fed. Now, if you were to make that argument for social media, like
Yeah.
Instagram, all those things,
1
man,
million percent.
if I
It's
watch a
totally.
video, if I watch a video all the way through, it's guaranteed 2 or 3 videos later, I'm going to get one either similar or from the very same influencer. But that is what social media is designed for, I think. Social media is way more algorithm driven. I think the news still has some responsibility to at least be perceived as having integrity.
I agree with that. I
To
agree
a
with
point
that
where I
point.
don't think that
I
what
do
you're
too.
saying about them delivering the news you like, I don't think that's true. It's just
Well,
not.
I guess it depends on then how you get your news, because as Jack was saying, a lot of his news
But
comes from
we all
influencers.
just looked on Google, and outside of you, ours were all the same. And I don't look at any of the websites that popped up.
But you guys probably look at similar websites and different than
No,
me.
but see, now you're just, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but now you're just like finding a way for that to work. It's just not the case. 3 of us had 3 similar pages, and I don't look at CBS. I barely ever look at Wikipedia, and Reddit is a fucking joke, so I never look at that.
Oh, I don't think it's a
Yahoo,
joke.
I
You don't
never
like Reddit?
use Yahoo News ever.
Yeah.
So
I
why
didn't
would
even know
it
Yahoo
send
was
Never.
still around.
why would it send me 3 websites that I don't look at if it's really
Same.
paying attention to my algorithm? I'm not
Yeah, and
busting your balls. It just doesn't track.
It's different
Yeah,
from
we covered that.
though.
yeah,
But
and it didn't
what you're saying just doesn't track.
it didn't take Zeus to like Sexy Baldy magazine, where he normally goes or
It never
anything like
took me
that.
to arguingstories.com, and
Yeah.
clearly that's
Well, Tor, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, it's all algorithm driven, but there's something weird about
like for me, what
what's
you're
going
saying
into
Tor,
said
sounds
algorithm
like
because
sci-fi,
it
like
seems to
next
not be
level,
like
like
how a social media
Skynet, like
algorithm
what you were
is.
saying with Skynet. That's what that sounds like. That sounds like the AI is so good that it's tricking us into thinking that it's stupid, so it can take us over later when we're,
Well,
it's
also,
just too
here's a
much for me.
question, theoretical. Is bias in the eye of the beholder, or is it a measurable thing that has, I'm trying to think, is it an
It could be both.
actual measurable
Agree.
thing?
I
It's
think
both.
bias can only
It's
be
both.
human, so AI not a part of it unless it's
I mean,
taught the bias.
this is an old, I think we've mentioned this before on the show years ago, but this kind of brings me back to the old rock and roll station analogy or alternative music station analogy where like back in the day, like in the 80s or the 90s or whatever, in 50s, say go back to the 50s, you'd listen to like, rock and roll radio and you didn't know who in the hell Chubby Checker was, or you didn't know who Elvis was, and this is going way back before my time. But the DJ did, and he would curate the music and play things. Oh, I never heard that before, and oh, you're gonna love this. Wolfman Jack playing the hits, whatever. Now we don't have that anymore. Now you have the radio station and they only play you what you want to see, and as far as like media is concerned, social media and everything else. So what it does is it seems like it's great because it's like, look, I'm not going to waste my time on stuff I don't want. I'm just going to focus on what I do want. But it what it does is it makes your brain die on the vine because you're just recycling, you're drinking your own piss at a certain point, right? You're not bringing in any new inputs. In our society these days, you have to make an effort to get outside of your comfort zone and start
100%.
reading
And
things
nobody
and start
does.
seeing, and no one really does. And
Yeah.
it's dangerous. I think for our society it's dangerous because it makes it easier for smaller and smaller numbers of people to control what everyone is seeing and controlling the narrative. And I think that's super dangerous. It's like these days people are like, "Oh, Spotify is so great." I
Yeah, it's
love
not
music. But I'm just saying, or things like that. Like, well, where do you go to listen to new music then? Like if you're
Amazon
always being
Music.
fed
It's
what you
free.
want. But what I'm saying is, there's one station out of Baltimore. They still have DJs that like will spin stuff that you've never heard before. It's a
I
college
saw that,
station.
But some people just want the classics, man.
I
You know,
know.
Yeah, that was a great dramatic zoom, Desiree. Good job.
As a
Yeah.
Zoom. This
You
is
know,
Zoom, baby.
it is like again, the idea of algorithms, right, is you click on things that you want to see. The whole dopamine idea, right?
Oh God, yeah.
You're getting fed things that you will have looked at and you will look at again, right? You're
Hmm.
getting fed music that you listen to and you'll listen to again.
It's
If you
so
like new music, you're going to go to the new music channels on Spotify. Like there's ways for you to do what you want to do in the different
whoa,
platforms.
whoa, whoa. Are you saying it takes effort?
No, it doesn't
No.
really, but
Okay, because I
it's
don't do that.
I only listen to I don't listen to a lot of music. I listen to music that I like. I listen to music when I work out. I like to listen to the same stuff.
Yeah,
So I don't seek out music. If
yeah.
you like new music, there are lists on Spotify that you can subscribe to that will give you new music. Like that's
No,
how
and I
you
was
want to
joking about effort.
interact.
No, and
It's
that's
not,
good to know because I don't do that. Like
yeah,
I really take things at face value. I don't. That's why that ground was it ground news, whatever.
Hmm.
I'm gonna look into that. I may join that and let you guys know, just because I have not, Tor, I have not taken like proactive steps other than choosing where I go, but I don't have any sort of like system or whatever, where I'm
it
like
depends on your
directing it,
sophistication with the platforms, right? Like
Yeah.
that's it depends on how much you want to interact with them. Like I get I like say I get my news on Facebook. I don't necessarily get the news on Facebook, but I get to see what people are talking about at the water cooler, right? And before I saw your episode, I saw somebody say she lived 500 miles away. So
Hmm.
I know that that person got their same bit of news as Zeus did, right? I
You
know,
realize I'm going to look this up now. I gotta find, I gotta
you
see
know,
where she
again,
lived.
like
I'm going to look up where she lived.
this is
And
where
and
I
in
did look
in
it up.
defense of myself, I haven't looked into it past maybe 2 days after it happened.
Of
So it very
course,
well could be that that was the actual news
Oh, that
everywhere at the
happens. No,
time.
that totally happens.
And
Yeah.
now you're getting newer news that I was unaware of because I did
of
go online
course.
and I checked and they said she was like a block, like less than a mile away. So, and I am fine with saying I'm wrong. But again, I was stating what was true at the time that I had received the information.
Agree. But
So again, that
true,
really has again nothing to do with like algorithms.
I'm no,
We're getting
but my
off
my
the.
point is that it wasn't something that I was surprised by because I had already seen it. Again, you
Mhm.
guys record a week later or a week earlier. So I had already seen that in people's comments on Facebook
In
talking
the
about it,
news. Yeah, I've
right?
seen the
But it's
same
not
thing.
news. I didn't see it in the news. I saw it at the water cooler.
Well, Tor, we've talked about this on the show before. Like I've been at work, like I'll read something, whatever, say it's on CNN or whatever, CNN.com or whatever. And or a Brian Stelter uh hit or whatever, and I'll see that or watch that, and then 2 days later I'll be in the office and like someone will like just completely reiterate what he just said as though it was totally fact, even though in the intervening 48 hours it was shown to be completely wrong. So I've
Happens all
totally
the
seen
time.
that. It happens all the time, and I've done it. I've
But
totally done it.
A
right,
story, a
that's
story I've
part of the
told the
problem that
guys
we're
on the
talking about
show.
here, right?
Yeah, no, that's a big part of it. That's a
Yeah.
huge part of
Uh,
it.
a story I've told the guys on the show quite frequently. I think you guys will remember. Is Jake? Was his name Jacob Blake, the guy that got shot by the cops? He pulled a knife.
Yes, yes, Jacob Blake.
So I'm at work and I'm talking to this guy and it's all right in the middle of the BLM stuff and he's like, what are you talking about? They killed that man. I'm like, dude, he's alive and well. He's walking a little funny after getting shot, but he's alive. So again, it is good for us if we are going to fall prey to this media to have the confidence in ourselves to acknowledge when we're wrong, when we find out information has changed, to not just stick to the old story. Like this guy clearly did not know the news. He just heard somebody got shot, either made an assumption or they said that he was dead at first, whatever. And he was another guy that did come back and say, okay, so I was wrong,
And
but I think that doesn't happen as much as it used to. I think the water cooler is a shitty place to get your news, honestly.
well, it comes down
Well,
to
now there's
trust.
two
So
different water coolers, basically.
Yeah.
yeah, Or there's people that choose not to talk
Well, no, just
at
like Tor was
all.
saying, like he goes to Facebook, he'll see something, and then do further his own research.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in that arena, I mean, that is very much algorithm driven. So, I mean, if we do that, my Facebook's very different than his, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
even
yeah.
talking, Desiree, I'm even talking more about like friends of mine that are maybe political instigators, maybe, right? That um want to like I when I present on Facebook a discussion, I like to ask specifically. I'll say, my friends on the right, this is what I'd like to talk about. Friends on the left, keep your mouth shut. I want this to be a safe space for people to talk about their opinions on X subject. And I don't do it very often. I haven't done it in a while because
It has
I
been a
got
while.
yeah, because I got guys that would come on that would be, Sandy Hook deniers, and
Oh God.
it loses they
Wow, that's
lose
deep.
yeah, like it loses a lot of credibility with me, right? And it became very much one of the reasons I wanted to come back here was because you guys used the ominous they a lot.
Hmm.
And that's where I have an issue. Like, I'm not a part of the they. I think like them. I probably agree with them and vote with them a lot, but I'm not somebody that just marches to whatever they say. Like, when my whole concept of what Biden should have done, and I worked for a political outlet in Chicago for a while. I texted the guy, I'm like, they should have an election for vice president. And if you think about it, it would have been the perfect thing for them to do. Biden could still run. We run a whole election. You get to see the whole backbench of the Democrats elect the vice president, so that if something happens to Biden, you've got somebody that was elected in his place, right? That was one of the big issues that people had with Kamala, was that she wasn't elected to be the representative,
But
right?
here's my thing
So hold
about
on,
that.
hold on. So I'm not lockstep to party by any means.
Yeah.
And when the generalizations happen where
Yeah,
it's
but
and
Tor, you just referred to a they. You said I'm not one of them. I'm not part. So there is a they. You're not part of it, and that's great. Like nobody said you're part of the they, but there is a they. Like that's the
We're not
media that
saying they
Mike's.
because
but
we're lazy. We're saying they because it's they. It's
Yeah,
them.
it's a reference to not only the media sources that Mike was talking about, but it's a reference to the people that do buy everything they say lockstep and barrel. If you're not one of them, great.
but
And they
you
has
guys
been
don't make
established
the
on this show
distinction
by
when you
us.
say they, you don't make there's no room for nuance. And that's part of the problem too, right? Is that and what was her name? Lena said it a number of times last
What,
week.
cunt?
She said that too, but she said you people. She
Hmm.
said that a lot,
Yeah,
right?
she's
And
generalizing,
but
and I
that
But
get
that's
that's
what you're
just
part of the
her
saying.
problem
version
that we
of
have,
they.
right?
Well,
That's
That
just
that
her version of they, dude.
Yeah,
yeah.
Language
exactly.
barrier.
But that's part of the problem, though,
So
is that
how would you phrase that? Because I get what you're saying, but I guess because I'm sympathetic, so
It's just being general.
I chalk it up to like we're having a casual conversation and you don't want to list who they are, right? It's like it's a they, and then if you ask and you push back, it's like no. Like I think I even said I was like I don't mean uh all people. I don't mean liberals. I love liberals. I love classical liberalism. I mean like the left, like leftists, like hardcore leftists. That's my they, the global
right.
leftists.
The,
Um,
the,
but
what
but
we've
I
lost is that the ability for distinction in that, right? And that's part of
Yes, but that's
what
when
we're
you get
fed.
deeper
That's
into the
part of what
conversation.
the language that you hear. That's part of the algorithms that feed you what you want to see.
well also
Yeah,
That's
but
here.
all
Well, it's
part of the
very much
problem.
it's it's the same on
Yeah,
the Republican side too, because, you know, to somebody that's center or center left of center, maybe is that the I don't know. You know, the generalization is the MAGA Republicans,
I'll get you,
which
buddy.
Sure, but like that's a
Yeah,
negative
it's
connotation.
dehumanizing.
Just
Well,
because you're
Well, and yeah,
Republican does
you
not
don't
mean
hear us
you're
saying like you
MAGA
don't hear us saying
Republican.
like libtards
or
or any. We
deplorables.
don't do any of that. Like if we say they, I think by listening to our show, if you have been listening to our show, the they is established. It's not a diminishing statement, and the nuance will be attached if it needs to with specificity when necessary. We have a 1 hour window in which to talk. They is better than saying CBS News, ABC, and CBS, along with Breitbart, all said this. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
They
it's just
said,
economy of
general
conversation.
statement, done.
I
Yes.
I think one
Zeus,
thing.
the quote that you got me back on, and don't want to misquote you. It
If
was
it's a
either
quote of
left,
mine, I'm going to lose my shit.
it was left or liberals. God, I hate the left.
Oh, we remember that. You mentioned that last. Yeah, but Zeus
Yeah.
already explained that. He apologized. He said,
No,
"Look,
I
I get
understand, but
worked up,
again,
and I."
the point of it is we're like I like coming on with you guys. Jack, when you texted me today, I thought I looked at it
Jack
for a
who?
long time. I looked at it for quite some time saying, do I really want to do this again? Because last week was tough. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it
My
was.
name's
Yeah,
Carl.
It
yeah.
was, sorry, Carl. It was,
Carl's so
and
hot.
again, I like getting involved in discussion. And at some point somebody said that, I was for slavery.
Who said that?
And Lena, you know, so it became something where it's like,
Well, yeah. It's
Oh wait, that was the whole second-class citizen thing. People had to
yeah,
pick our
Oh
fruit and
yeah,
wash our
yeah. I
toilets.
was like,
I'm
as soon as
for
you said that,
slavery
I was like,
abolition.
did I say that? Like,
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
like-
And again, like I love passionate arguments, right?
Yeah.
I love being able to discuss things with intelligent people that obviously think about this more than just sitting at the water cooler and getting fed stuff by the algorithm or by their friends or whoever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like engaging with people like you because it's out of my bubble, right? I get to hear different perspectives, and you guys get to hear different perspectives. Like
Okay.
Mike,
Yeah, we love it.
when we finished the conversation when we were off the air last time, you were talking about the Save Act, and I said I don't have a problem with voter ID, just make it free.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
your facial expression was terrific. Like it was like something that did like, wow, okay. Because I think
Sure.
poll tax. I think
I gotta
that's
hit
something
you with
that
Like
makes
free as
sense,
in like I
right?
don't got to pay that $27
It's
to get my
already.
ID.
I think it's
Sure.
already like that in
Cool.
Maryland. You
Sure.
can't get a driver's license for free, but you can get a free state ID.
Yes,
Here's a point that I'm going to make. Hot Carl, who used to work under me at a
Whoa.
fundraising company
Oh,
Hey now.
20
yeah.
years ago, he will tell you what kind of companies. I have been a Democrat my entire life. I raised $2,000 an hour for Bill Clinton. I was a hardcore Democrat. So when I say I hate the left, take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
I don't hate
I
anybody,
get you.
but you brought it up multiple times. You have this habit of asking me something that you already had your answer ready for it, and it takes me off guard. I'm not the guy that you think I am. Ask these guys. This whole podcast, this entire podcast has been a journey for me further to the right than I was before.
Wait,
I fought and I
Zeus.
kicked and I bucked against it. These guys will tell you.
Wait, Zeus. I can say it in 4 words. Zeus voted for Biden.
Mm.
And Obama both times, and the Clintons. You
I
know
voted
what?
for Bill Clinton in '92.
I voted for Kerry. I voted
Hurts
up
to say
until
that.
Trump.
Sure.
Trump is the first Republican I voted for.
Sure.
And not the first term, the second term.
You know
My
what?
point, Zeus, wasn't to
when
cast
you
judgment.
do these little like switcheroos with me, I'm not mad, but it's kind of offensive to me because I'm not a left. I'm not right. I'm just not left, and I'm probably right of center. Yes, but I'm not
I
leaning
don't mean
heavy.
to cast aspersions on you. And this kind of my point with all of it was language matters, right? So
Yes,
when you
but
say-
context matters as well.
sure,
Mm.
And
right?
my
So in the
context was
context
not.
of-
My context was what were we talking about when I said I hate the left? I bet it was something that's really irritating about them. So sometimes we go off a little and we say something that may be out of our normal range of vitriol. Would that
That
be the right term?
Yeah, Desiree's
And
raising a hand here, though.
yes, Desiree.
You can finish your comment, your thought, but
Well, I
I
just
just
want
gotta
to give
remember I
Mike
have a
enough time to
thought.
put the Star Spangled Banners.
Yeah, I have one more
Musically.
point. I have one more point, but Desiree, you're first.
Go ahead.
Um, Again, I just wanted to agree with Tor because I think what you're getting at is being labeled as the they, aka the crazy fucks over there, just because you are, left of center, let's say. You are a Democrat. Not
I'm a
all
Democrat.
Democrats are fucking crazy ass
Sure.
leftist fucks.
I don't think that of
Like,
you.
wow. Again, and so I get what you're saying because on the right,
Lay down, buddy.
it surely feels like it, you know, just because you are conservative, well, that means you're alt-right fucking.
Deplorable. You're a Nazi.
Racist, Nazi,
Well,
scumbag.
one thing
Sure.
that
And I'm not saying it, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying I get the sentiment because I feel
It
like
go-
that.
Both
It goes both
extremes
ways.
are not good, right?
What's that?
I
that's a
think that
great
we'd all agree
segue.
that most people in the country live in the middle. And the
Most
nuance
people
to
are
their
good
argument
people.
of whether they're left or right is generally something that's very specific to their life experience.
I
And
think those people can be good people too, right? I mean, you could be a far leftist or a very conservative far right and still be a decent person. I mean, it just
Sure.
oh
means your
yeah,
beliefs are
or
Yeah,
you
but the
can.
extreme.
other thing that was fun in that discussion was at some point, Zeus, you said you were talking about Nick Fuentes, and you
Ugh.
said something to the effect of, well, obviously he says some things that are crazy, but you agreed with him on whatever point you were talking about, right? Now,
Occasionally he simmers down and he can be digested. Generally, I think he's
he's
kind of a
misogynist,
smarmy
racist,
asshole.
like he's not a good person. Can we agree on that in general?
And
Well,
sometimes you like watching train wrecks. I'm just
but
Yeah, sure. But
also I've
like,
seen
imagine if I
recently.
said something like, Farrakhan, I really don't agree with him, but on the environment, man, we're lockstep.
Maybe
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
what
what his
Farrakhan has
Yeah,
said. I
that
don't
policies.
doesn't
My
sound
understand.
point is,
unreasonable.
I don't validate him because we have little things that we agree on, because I think he's a despicable person. So when you validate Nick Fuentes by saying there's
Did
something,
I validate him or did I say something he said was okay?
I think that's
Because
validating.
I didn't like Charlie Kirk at first, and then I listened a little longer. And
Charlie
as
Kirk
far
said
as,
some racist things, right?
hold on. And on the Nick
Mm,
Fuentes thing, he's been coming out a lot recently and going, "Don't you guys get the joke? I'm not racist. I like black people." So there's leaning into the clickbait, the algorithm stuff. Get them listening, and then show a little more of your real self. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
I feel like
true.
a lot
I'm
of shit
not.
that he says is for the clicks, but
Oh, he's really
hmm.
awful. He's really awful most of the time. But who's another one? Like Ben Shapiro came across to me as very abrasive for a while. Um, People, when
Andrew,
you get
what's the new
exposed to
one?
them longer, you can sometimes find common ground. It doesn't mean that you're turning into them.
but
It
here's the
just
thing,
means you're
and
opening
You're
your
Plus,
normalizing them.
you're allowed to say I agree with Farrakhan on the environment, but otherwise, I think he's a jackass. I mean, like you're allowed to say that on a podcast. It doesn't mean you're validating the guy.
My
yeah,
yeah,
you're
point
just
is, I
agreeing
wouldn't
with
say that
something that
even
made
if I
sense.
agree with him because I think he's
yeah,
despicable.
but I would never cast any single person. I mean, we're kind of contradicting ourselves, right? Not everyone is all one thing or the other, right? So even somebody um, who is otherwise despicable, if they save a puppy, you can give them an attaboy for that.
Yeah, dude.
I
Hey,
mean,
how
I'm
about
not
this?
just going to throw. I mean,
Sure.
I love my fellow human beings, right? I believe that
Yeah.
all people can improve. Um, there's people that I just don't have time for. That's true. But
I'll
the
give
thing
you.
that we do, I got to get this point out because I've been
Yeah.
trying to get this point out, and it
Okay.
it it kind of dives into what Tor brought up a few minutes ago. I think part of the issue that I've seen with the media is when you have and it whatever wherever you are on the spectrum or whatever show you're watching, the people they put up as an example of the other is always
them,
the them is always the most batshit
batshit.
crazy person. Like
Yeah.
if you watch stuff that's more from the right and they're talking about, I hate it when like radio hosts are like crazy liberals. I'm like, what? Because I like liberals. I just don't like leftists, and I don't think liberals a derogatory term myself. However, they always will show like the person that's like 500 pounds with blue hair, nose ring, that's like screaming and wearing a keffiyeh, right? And then on the if you watch MSNBC, they'll Nate Rachel Maddow will be talking. They'll interview some guy that's just like he's got the MAGA hat on. He's got
Mm-hmm.
like the
3 teeth.
shotgun, yeah, 3 teeth, or whatever. And it's like so
No
we
shirt on.
are there is it's not benign. People are making an effort in this media chain to spin things a certain way and to get
Absolutely.
people going like this all the time. And
Absolutely.
I'm just saying
To where it's an us versus them
as an
mentality,
us versus them.
almost.
So as a consumer of media, all I'm saying for our viewer out there is you have to take care of yourself. You have to protect your brain. You have to look out for yourself because it's it's tough out there, man. You can't just walk around like a sheep and like think every and like an innocent sheep thinking that oh you're just getting the facts. You have to be a little more curious
Yeah,
than
dude,
just
I don't know,
taking
man.
what you
I think
take.
that the hardest thing about that is it's not easy to do.
It's not. No, it's very
No, it's
So
difficult.
not.
It's
so then
very
so then
difficult.
if you're not again, if you're not intellectually curious, if you're not inherently skeptical, right? And somebody says to you, "Boy, did you see this thing that happened? This is what I think about it." You're going to take that because you got shit going on in your life and you've got too much
Correct.
stuff
It's
to
horrible.
actually
Yeah,
parse what's true or not.
correct.
And that's
That's
how we get to where we are,
yeah,
right?
I would agree 100%.
Hey,
Yeah.
look, we all
I
agree on
I
something.
couldn't have put it better. That's exactly what I mean.
But
Hey, hey,
here's
guys, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I got to get going too.
it's late. I think we've been on for a while. It's time
Yeah.
to wrap things up.
Well, any
what I
last?
wanted to say.
Yeah, Zeus, you get last word unless Desiree has last word.
I just
But
wanted to
I
express
do have
another.
one final thought,
okay, so Zeus and then
like Jerry
Desiree.
Springer.
I don't. I think that there is a lot more diversity. I think first of all, people are scared to talk anymore
Oh
because
yeah.
you're afraid to piss off the person next to you. But Tor, another example of this is like, and I've talked about this with the guys. I am I am pro choice all over the place societally. In my own personal microcosm, I hold I hold the right to judge. Um, I'm probably going to judge in the favor of the person who had the abortion, but I hold a little close to my heart. Babies are special, and I don't endorse it. But I'll be damned if I'm going to tell Desiree what she can do with her body that she's had her entire life
Sure.
and what she wants to do with it. So there is diversity in these groups. I'm sure you see me as very far right. I'm really not. I just don't like the way the left is acting right now. And perhaps when I say the left, you should think that I'm saying far left. Liberals, I'm kind of like Mike. I like people that are liberal and can have a pleasant conversation and not argue about it. That's really all I had to say. I think that there's a misunderstanding of my politics. I'm probably the newest to this group in the right of everybody. Des has been in it. Her husband
That's
has been
true.
in it. Jack, Mike, as long as I've known Jack, Jack's been a Republican and I've been a Democrat, and we've been best pals for fucking about what, like 30 years?
Over 30,
And
man.
there's the final thought to
Yeah.
Yes.
piggyback on.
Final thought.
So, yeah, could we all just go back to the regular
No doubt.
pro-life, pro-choice, tax stuff? Maybe not tax stuff, but the regular stuff that the parties used to argue about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be fine with
Because
that.
that stuff seems
Kept us
normal,
honest.
It
but
seems
I
more
think
normal.
where it started to divide everyone is, and it became much of a us versus them mentality, was when one side started saying that trans kids and dicks and you can be 87 things, that ideology, and then also on this side, crazy misogynists who think can't ever have an abortion and get married and have 75 kids and never take birth control and God is great all the time, doesn't matter. Like there's a very, very out there.
Like, should they be the first people that Musk sends to Mars?
Well,
People from those two groups?
it used to be that even within the same side, you meet some of those people and you're like, ooh,
Right.
a wackadoo.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now,
Is anybody in this group atheist or
No.
anything of
No.
that sort?
I'm not.
Or
I'm agnostic, I guess you would
Atheist
want to
or
put a thing on it.
agnostic, yeah.
I'm certainly I was raised Catholic and I've been non-practicing for my whole life.
Right.
I was just curious.
I
All right,
personally
everybody.
don't necessarily
Okay.
believe in a higher
Now I
power.
need someone to do the hand thing because we've been on for a while. It's time to wrap things up. Hey, our viewers out there, we'll be back next week. Okay, we'll have another hot episode. So we'll see you then.
You better
Maybe
believe it.
Tor will be on
Right.
too.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Tor.